response to that poll.
Speaking of TNT, Jared Greenberg, NBA on TNT with BA and Stan Van Gundy tonight, joins us right now on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Jared, thanks for joining us. We always appreciate catching up with you. Heading into this game, Jared, what would you say the national reputation of the Kings is through the first month of this season?
Well, thanks for having me, guys. Great to chat with you, and I'm excited to be in Sacramento. It's been a long time since I've been here. I'm excited to see what this fan base does tonight. In addition to the team, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But I think, we're trying to figure out which Sacramento Kings team is the real one, the one that started 0-4, or the one that theoretically could have won their next 8 games if it weren't for some poor whistles or lack thereof whistles. Because of how exciting they've been. They've clearly, for the last, as you guys know, decade or if not more, have just had a putrid defense. And now over the last several games, to have a defense that is quite competitive and challenge and taking the challenge is awesome. And then, I think the Kings took a lot of heat last year nationally for the trade they made, shipping out Tyrese Halliburton and taking on Sabonis. And I think that was kind of twofold, without rehashing old stories. It's number one, betting on that Sabonis would give you what was needed in terms of a playmaker inside offensively and being able to run the offense through him. And then more importantly, the second part of it was being able to let De'Aaron Fox flourish. And when he's healthy, as we've seen over these last several games, he is one of the more electrifying point guards in the NBA.
What did you think of the supporting cast they put around De'Aaron Fox this offseason with Kevin Huerter and bringing in Malik Monk? What did you look at this and think it could work?
Well, I have seen a lot of Kevin Huerter, to be honest with you, and I think that because he was always in the shadows of Trae Young when he was in Atlanta, so people didn't necessarily understand how good of a shooter he was. But I kind of understood the shooting that they were putting around these guys. But I think more importantly, and this is something we're going to dive into during the TNT broadcast tonight, I think it makes sense for a plan, right? They're not just shoving players into a roster and saying, let's go try and end this playoff drought. They're trying to put together a long runway here. And I think Monk and Huerter, along with Sabonis and with the core that they have now of young guys with Fox and Davion Mitchell, these guys all fit together and on the same timeline to not just end this playoff drought, which is so important to this city and to this franchise, but to be competitive and to be taken seriously for the next, 4, 5, 6 years.
Jared Greenberg from TNT is with us here on the Cattles and Ramie show, Sactown Sports. Jared, when you watch this team and you read about this team, there's a lot that can stick out so far with this 6-6 start. But what has stuck out to you the most when working on the Kings for tonight's matchup? Is it De'Aaron Fox and the season he's having, or is it something else that really stands out to you?
Yeah, I think it's how the defense has improved over the last 2 weeks, I would say, or the last week and a half. But also, yeah, I mean, we've always, De'Aaron Fox, it needs to stay on the court, needs to stay healthy, and that'll, be with him until he can prove otherwise. But yeah, he has been unbelievable, and in clutch moments too, right? Like you guys have seen it, hitting that buzzer beater a couple of games ago. But I also think, what we want things to work really fast in society today. And, I talked to Malik Monk about this morning at shoot-around. Like, even though Monk and Sabonis got some time together on the court last year after the trade, it really takes a long time for two guys that like the ball in their hand to figure out how to play off one another. And De'Aaron told me today he's never played with a big man in his entire life that has the ability to pass like Sabonis does. And, when you play, and I'm not going to put Sabonis on the level of a Jokic, but when you play with a big man who's as willing of a passer as he is, it's not just as simple as to step on the court and say, I'm open, give me the ball, right? There takes that chemistry and cohesiveness, to figure out one another. And I think over the summer, they spent some time away together. The team did, practicing and getting to know one another. And I think it finally has gotten to the point now where Sabonis and Fox are a really good 1-2 punch in the NBA.
It's still early, so we don't know if this will take hold, these Kings that we've seen in the first 12 games. But how much of this turnaround so far do you think is the Mike Brown effect?
Oh, I think it's massive. And speaking to people around the organization, he brings a level of credibility and accountability that I think a young team like this needs, right? Like, they need to be shown that every practice, every shoot around, every film session, every quarter, every half, every game means something, and it's important. And we've got to win every time we touch the floor, whether it's practice or whether it's a game. And I think that is being instilled. And Mike comes with high demand. He's a demanding coach to play for, and he is an old school defensive minded coach. And I think a lot of these guys probably aren't used to that over the last few years, with the amount of offense that has been proposed or preached, if you will. And the offense is important, but we just watched the game over the weekend with the Knicks. They scored 135 points in regulation and lost by double figures, right? So, like, it just goes to show you, as much as this league is offensive oriented and focused, you've got to be able to make stops. And I think Mike Brown brings that. And these guys know it, right? And I'm sure they have friends on the Warriors who can tell them what Mike Brown meant to that Warriors dynasty the last several years.
Last one for you today, Jared. And again, thanks for the time. We appreciate you. Has the Jacques Vaughn, we talk about Mike Brown's impact, has the Jacques Vaughn hiring helped settle things down a little bit for Brooklyn?
Well, for the time being, I think it certainly has. The question for the Nets and us, I was covering the Nets 2 weeks ago when the whole Kyrie saga was going on and Steve Nash got fired same day, right? So it's like the next thing is always around the corner with this team. But yeah, I talked to some players today. They just said that Jock brings this approach, this energy that is different than Steve Nash. And it's not to bash Steve Nash or anything, but it's remarkable. Just getting ready for this game, looking at Jacques Vaughn's history, like he played with, the likes of Malone and Stockton, Tim Duncan, Grant Hill, Vince Carter, and then he played for, starting at Roy Williams at Kansas, right? And then you go to Jerry Sloan, Doc Rivers, Greg Popovich. So, like, this guy has been, bred to be a coach, right? Like, if there's anybody who's meant to be a coach, it's this guy with his pedigree.
Jared, thanks for the time again. We appreciate you. Let's do it again soon.
All right. Appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. There goes NBA on TNT's Jared Greenberg. He'll be on the call tonight with BA and Stan Van Gundy. Of course, all guests come to you from the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. And while Jared was talking, we get a text from me that said Jared mentioned the playoff drought 3 times just in the phone call.
I noticed that myself. I don't know. Did you see me? Every time he did it, I put up fingers counting. Yeah.
Well, maybe my 8.5 number wasn't too shabby there. Maybe just
that was 3 times in what? 12 minutes? How long did we have Jared for? 12 minutes there?
Not even.